Welcome to another reading and correcting of Bottom Rung. Kindar, the Tiger writes, The Tiger Supervisor. Today we are doing Chapter 9. Tibs looked into the room and shuddered. Rats escaped him as he saw the line of them in the middle of the large room. But the rabbits are missing, the archer said. Rabbits? Ariana asked. There was a line of rabbits behind the rats the last time they decimated. I barely made it out. You went in the room? Spider asked. There were still three of us by the time we got here, and they were bunnies. How hard can bunnies be, right? He asked her, shuddered. I'm never going to look at bunnies the same way. I'm hoping to never see rabbits made of stone out of this place. The fighter said, but if they're gone, it's a good thing. I think the dungeon makes any changes that I don't think the dungeon makes any changes that make things the sorcerer. Tibs pushed his fear back and crouched, studying the room. No holes in the walls, no spears to kill them. He noticed the way the stone's tiles were mostly even, larger ones, you count, there were more than twice as. What caught his attention was the way they were different from the others in exactly the same way, rectangulars and slightly angled, as if one side was about to tip in. If there were triggers for traps, what were they for? They're in the floor, he said, really. If the dungeon took the rabbit away to make things harder, then not knowing where they'll come from does that. Some of the tiles look like they're tipping, probably to make it easier for the rabbits to jump out of them. As if it wasn't hard enough before, the archer. Now they can ambush us? At least there's five of us. And because of Ariana, none of us are badly hurt. Clear the room easily enough, although I'm not sure what's supposed to happen after that. Corridor. This is the last room, the writer said. Get bragging rights since it's cleared it. Don't count your victories yet. These things are fast. How many rabbits were there? I count 12 rats. The archer was silent for a second. 8? Maybe 10? I was too busy trying to survive to get a precise count. Ryder turned to look. Right? We've been told what to expect and that it's going to be a hard fight. So, what do you want to do? Asked. You can turn around now. We're not required to finish this. I'm not leaving. Not letting a few rats and rabbits scare me off. I'm not that suicidal, the archer said, because I've seen what they can do, but I would like to be able to say I was part of the first team. Clear the room. Do we have enough arrows? Do we have enough arrows, though? Arena asked, counting those in her quiver. Half my arrows broke, shooting rats in the other room. It's crap. They don't want us to survive, so they aren't going to give us anything good. I have 8. Well, I guess I'm a better shot than you. The fighter looked at the sorceress. How are you for power? She placed a hand over the amulet and closed her eyes. Not used to this, but at a guess, 6, maybe 7 shots. This thing doesn't seem to recharge the way the books I read said they should. So this is going to be a risk. Arena said. She squared her shoulder and placed an arrow against the bowstring. But yeah, I'd love to claim the title of first to clear the room. Carter nodded, grip on her. Kill rats and bunnies. Tibs, I know fighting isn't your thing. You want to stay out? Tibs shook his head. I want to kill rats. Best to keep his voice from shaking. I want my revenge on them. I just wish I could tell you what to expect with the rabbit. I can see a lot of places they can spring from, but only 10 or 8 or 10. But if there's only 8 or 10, that means they can jump out of anywhere. If they're anything like real rabbits, there's probably a warren system or that connects every flip tiles. That way they don't have to come out or from one they jumped in. Rabbits, didn't you know? I've only heard of rabbits as something nobles eat. They might as well have been fairy folk for the as far as the odds of me real one now. We can shoot the rats from here. There's going to be a few things for you to deal with. Butter nodded. Not that I think they're going to stay in place once you start shooting, but yeah, the more you can take out, the better. We should, and we should be safe out here, Archer said. They didn't follow me out of the room the last time. He shuddered. I'd be dead if they had. There's noticed Ariana frowning. Shook his head. She looked at him. Archer's story didn't make sense. In this dungeon, it did. But if the dungeon existed to kill everyone who entered, why let leave if any of the monsters were still alive? Tibs, get down, Potter said, and he crouched below the fire of, while she stepped behind the others. Start firing as soon as you're ready. Tibs, we go in the moment the rats start moving. And everyone, please don't hit me or Tibs. Embarrassing enough, getting rats hurt. I've had to run off, but not add that a teammate brought me down. The laughter that followed was more nerve than anything else. Tibbs's ear. Arrows and magic hit a rat each, killing them. Then the rest scattered. Spider was in the room before Tibbs even thought of moving, and a rabbit leaped out the traps. She pivoted and slashed at it, but another rabbit slammed into her leg. Tibbs unfroze and ran toward her as rats did. He jumped over her as she kicked the rabbit away, slashed at the rat wildly, not doing any noticeable damage, but keeping them from. Thanks, he said, standing, freezing. Well, we'll get through this. Don't worry. She stepped away from him. Tibbs slashed at a rat that got close and cut it in. He grinned in satisfaction, then was on his back as a rabbit slammed into his shoulder. He hurried to get up before the rat got too close, then he was on the ground again, the rabbit having hit his leg out from under him. With a scream, he planted a knife in the rat that bit him, then stabbed it again and again, stopping when another one bit his leg. He kicked at it, tried to get up, only to jump down as the rabbit jumped for his head. With a shriek, he scrambled away from the approaching rats. A sword stabbed the rat, and a hand grabbed Tibbs' leg, then pulled him hard. Tibbs looked in the direction they were going and yelled as he watched Ariana being mobbed by rats. By the time they reached the entrance, rats scattered back to the Ariana's form covered with bite mark, unmoving. The fighter let go of him by the sorceress, slumped against the wall by Ariana, the other archer. Slid down with a sigh. She was covered with bite marks too. Tibbs looked at Ariana's lifeless form. They survived their first dungeon. She'd been the one. They were going to do as many runs as they could to be their own team. But who else around them died, and she was already. Are you okay, Tibbs? The fighter asked. He shook his head, trying to make sense of how he felt. Why did this hurt so much? It wasn't like he'd known her for that well. Better. They were here to feed the dungeon. Well, I think we can kiss those coins goodbye. She indicated the room. Looked. Copper coins were scattered over. Can't keep anyway, said. At least we got here before they dissolved. That means 3 coppers each. It took Tibbs a moment. Is that what you care about? Snap. How many coins do you get to keep? They're dead. Yelling helped cover up the pain. Someone was going to die, she said slightly. So that's why we're here. Survive, that's what we focus on. But it didn't help. He knew it wasn't her fault. And it didn't matter that he lost three teammates on each runs. This one was different. And he couldn't understand what. Forced himself to stand, remove the archer's armored shirts, then putting the bow and quiver on. Right, he needed to get over the hurt. Coins would help him survive. Coins were always good. Remove the sorcerer's robe, and that fighter did this. Ariana. Under the robe, the sorceress wore a shirt. It was dirty, lifelike. Wear something this good. And she had coin, so why hadn't she used it from ending? She couldn't be street. She would have she would have been killed. Shirt. He took off the rag that had been his shirt, then off. He he could make better use. She could not. What are you doing? Ryder asked. What does it look like? I would have growled. She doesn't need it, and mine's just rags. Don't you have any respect for the dead? Why? He yelled, turning to Fraser. Why do I have to have respect for them when no one here has any for me? We're here to die. Don't you get it? It's they said it. The only reason our only reason for existing now is to feed this fucking dungeon. It's easier than letting us litter their precious street. Well, they're dead now and I'm not. I'm not going to stay in rags just because you say I have to respect them. You want to keep wearing those because you want to respect them? You go ahead. I don't fucking care. Turned back to the fighting to bury his pain as he pulled off her pants, put them on. They were loose on him, so he ripped the strip and rag to fighter handed him a belt. It was the archer's, Ariana's. Looks like you need it more than she does. Don't you respect the dead? Spat at her to hurt Ariana paused. Okay? I deserve that. I'm sorry for what I said. Right? They don't need it, and it isn't like anyone's going to make use of them. When we walk away, the dungeon is going to feed off of them. I lashed out at you because I can't go and kick this dungeon's ass for what it did. Sorry, didn't deserve that. Tibs put the belt on, took the belt and put it on. I'm sorry too, Maya yelled, said rather than explaining. Let's take the stuff and get out of here. Get any of this happen, okay? As for me, Tibs slung the bow and quiver over his shoulder while she grabbed the armored shirt and robe. She handed him the amulet and headed back. Crossing the boulder, Tibs shuddered, unable to keep from looking at each of them as they walked, or behind him. He was certain he heard the rats skittering about, eyes on him, ready to jump on his back and bite him. Even once they were out of it, he acting in it. It was only once he stepped out of the crack in the rock wall that he relaxed and remembered how much he hurt. The adventurers on each side didn't offer comfort or comment, motioning for them to go down the path worn in the grass as they walked up. Bardic stood behind the table as they approached. The Lightfinger, pleasure to see you're still with us. Tibbs unceremoniously dumped what he carried on the table and glared at the adventurer's rogue. The fighter added hers to the pile and placed the 12 coppers on them. We get to keep 3 each, she said. Bardic looked at her. And how do you figure that? Muscle? 2 shirts, dead voice hard, 1 robe, 1 amulet, and 2 bows with quivers. That's 6. 2, 3 each. The hand on the table and forward. Are you going to tell me you're changing how things are done? The adventurer. I wouldn't think of it. He put the items away. How far did you make it? 3rd room, but then shuddered. Bardic looked at the coins and frowned. He show of counting them. Room, you say? Couldn't pick up what we couldn't pick up what fell there. Ryder snapped. We got lucky. We're lucky we got out of there at all. Bardic looked at Tibbs instead of her, just looked back at the adventurer, not caring what he expected of him. Bardic could go in the dungeon and look for coins himself, for all Bardic no. I believe you. I let her. He took 3 coins from the ones he held and handed them to her, dropping the rest in the box and locking it. Tibbs watched the man's hand. As angry as he was, he couldn't help trying to figure out how he, because he knew he had, even if he counted 9 coins dropping in the box. Plenty of palm. While it wasn't something he'd ever picked up, he could always tell when. Normally he could. Isn't Tibbs getting his share? She demanded. You will, but first I need to have a few words with Miss Lightfinger. Crossed her arms over her large chest, and slightly surprised Bardic didn't glance at it. Every man who'd been around them while they waited to enter the dungeon had at least glanced at her chest. That was while she was wearing it was compressed by the ill-fitting armored shirt. Now it was definitely out there for everyone to look at. In private, if you don't mind, Miss Muscle? Okay. Softly. He's teaching me how to fight with. She looked at him, then indicated towards the town. I'll wait for you there, but I'm going to be watching. You try to hurt him and I'll. Bardic laughed. I do appreciate your sentiment, Miss Muscle. It's good that you care about your teammate, but have no illusion about this. If my intentions are to hurt him, there's nothing you can do about it, except end up hurting yourself. Now, mind? Glared at him and walked off, where she said she would, and turned and watched them attentively. Tibbs waited for Bardic to speak. When he didn't, felt the need to fill the silence. Give her coins in the open. Worried those about what those who saw it will do to her? Bardic. Arrogance deserves to be rewarded. She'll either learn a lesson or teach one to those who attempt to lighten her purse. She looks competent enough. I'm not certain which it will be. Now, as for you, find me where we first talked in town tomorrow after your training. I'll have something. Tibbs nodded. He hoped it wouldn't end up with him being hurt, but he'd do what he had to. I'll be there. Glad to hear that. In my hand, empty hand, to shake. Tibbs took it and felt the coins. I feel he could tell there were more than 3. She had the wrong count, Bardic said. The quivers and bows are counted separately, but she seemed so certain of the amount should get, I didn't feel like contradicting her. He let go of his hand. It's up to you if you decide she should have her extra coin or not. Tibbs looked at the 5 coins before pocketing them and of what had to happen for to get them. He swallowed hard as he walked away from the table. Are you okay? Spider asked as she fell into sleep. I'm fine, replied his voice hard. I'm glad. You were good in there. The rogue in my previous team didn't well. Died. He did, making his voice even colder, hoping she'd get the. Well, yeah. I don't want to know. Growled. If we're going to do more runs together, I think we. I don't want to know you. He snapped and shoved her away. I don't want to know your name. I don't want to know where you're from or how you got here. He glared at her. You're going to die. I'm going to die. Maybe you can stand knowing someone you know is going to be eaten. I can't. I don't want to be your friend, so leave me alone. I'm not trying to, she began. I don't care. Tibbs turned before she saw his teeth and walked off. Harriona hadn't been his friend. He'd barely known. They just shared a few meals, talked a little, but she'd been nice to him. Like the fighter was being nice to him. Now, Harriona was dead, and it Tibbs didn't want to hurt. It was too much like when Mom died. He wasn't here to make friends. He wiped his teeth. Maybe he'd been sent here to die. Maybe the adventurers thought all he was good for was to that dungeon. He'd made himself a promise next to his body. He was going to find those who'd done that to her. He was going to avenge Mama. And to do that, he had to survive. He had to survive the street, and now he had to survive that dungeon. This bottom rung. If you are enjoying this, please a like. If you want to know when the next one's going to be, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story, it's available for free on Royal Road. To support me and read ahead, Royal Road, we're about 9 chapters. You can do that on my Patreon. Want to listen live? It's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. on Twitch. Links are in the notes. And with that, I wish you a good day.